You descend slowly, deeper than sunlight can follow, inside the steel hull of the USS Thresher, SSN-593, where the air is controlled, the temperature steady, and every sound matters more than sight. And it's April 10th, 1963, a day meant to be routine, a post-overhaul deep test dive, calculated, procedural, safe by design, with every man on board trusting the systems because they have to, because at these depths, trust is not optional, it's survival. And as the submarine slips further beneath the Atlantic, numbers are called out calmly. 1,000 feet, 1,200, 1,500. The pressure outside building silently, invisibly, pressing harder against the hull with every second, while inside, the hum of machinery, the steady vibration of the reactor, and the quiet discipline of trained men create a controlled environment that feels stable, predictable, almost ordinary. But deep below the surface, ordinary is fragile, and it doesn't take much for it to break. Just a small irregularity, a sound that doesn't belong, a subtle shift that trained ears catch before systems fully register it. And then comes the report, measured, calm, but different now. A minor issue, a fluctuation, something not entirely right, and before it can be fully understood, another signal follows with more weight, a high-pressure seawater leak forcing its way through a compromised pipe joint in the engine room. And at this depth, water doesn't trickle. It cuts, blasting into the compartment with violent force, instantly turning into a freezing mist that spreads across surfaces, reaching electrical systems never meant to touch the ocean, reducing visibility, increasing risk, and the crew responds instantly, isolating systems, following procedure, doing exactly what they were trained to do. But then the reactor scrams automatically, shutting down to prevent further damage. And in that moment, the steady hum disappears, power drops, and everything changes. Because without propulsion, the submarine cannot maintain stability, and without stability, it begins to sink, slowly at first, then with growing certainty, the angle shifting beneath your feet, subtle but undeniable. And commands are issued quickly now, urgency creeping beneath controlled voices. Blow ballast tanks, force compressed air into them, push water out, regain buoyancy. But something goes wrong. The compressed air carries moisture, and in the freezing conditions of deep water, it turns to ice inside the valves, restricting flow, then stopping it completely. And the very system meant to save you begins to fail, leaving the submarine heavier, less responsive, more vulnerable as it drops below test depth into a zone where pressure is no longer a factor to manage, but a force waiting to overwhelm. And the hull begins to react, not dramatically, but unmistakably, groaning under stress, subtle vibrations traveling through steel and bone, making every man aware, without a word being spoken, that limits are being reached. And communication is attempted with the surface support ship USS Skylark, ASR-20, your only connection to the world above. But the message breaks apart as it travels, experiencing minor difficulties, attempting to blow, fragmented, incomplete, and then nothing, just silence as the ocean absorbs the signal and the distance becomes too great. And inside, time compresses, every second heavier than the last, the descent accelerating, systems no longer responding as expected, every attempt to recover control failing against the combined weight of pressure, ice, and loss of power. The depth gauge continuing downward, 2,000 feet, 2,200, 2,400, numbers that now carry finality instead of measurement, and the realization settles in not as panic, but as clarity that there is no recovery from this sequence, no procedure left to execute, no system left to rely on, because at this depth there is no rescue, no margin, no second chance, only the limits of steel against the force of the ocean. And as those limits are reached, the hull can no longer hold, and in an instant too fast to process, too sudden to resist, the pressure outside becomes overwhelming, and the submarine collapses inward, violently, completely, ending everything in a moment that cannot be seen from above, only detected as a distant acoustic signal by those waiting on the surface, a sharp, final sound carried through water that tells the crew of the USS Skylark what they already fear, that the USS Thresher, SSN-593, is gone, lost with all 129 souls on board. No survivors, no escape, just silence where there should have been routine. And in the days that follow, search efforts comb the ocean floor not for rescue, but for answers, finding scattered debris that confirms the chain of failures, faulty piping, system vulnerabilities, small oversights that only reveal themselves under extreme pressure. And those lessons are written into new procedures, new designs, changes meant to ensure this never happens again. But down where you were, none of that matters, because at those depths there is no correction, no recovery, only pressure, only darkness, and the moment when routine ends and the ocean takes everything.